Hello and welcome to another little bit of Satoshi's news. With it being a New Year's Day, I couldn't not do a show without reading out some posts from the man himself. So today's day is Wednesday, the 1st of January 2025. The year BSV comes alive. Bring it on. Experience the best of both worlds today at betbitcoinsv.com, the best casino and sports betting on chain. Have a little flutter in private using the original protocol and genuine Bitcoin. So we've got some posts here from CSW himself that just look epic, really. Classic ones here about scaling Bitcoin. I love catching these shitcoiners who like tripping over themselves. Absolute hypocrites. But yeah, quite looking forward to going over this one. Right, let's just get into it.
Satoshi, like a cowboy in the West, riding on the blockchain that they call the very best. 1 million strong, them transactions flying free. Just wait for the Terra node, you'll surely see.
Here we go. So, by CSW himself, and this post was just yesterday, New Year's Eve. He said, imagine money that doesn't stop at borders, doesn't wait for banks, doesn't care about the size of your wallet or the colour of your passport. Internet money, real internet money, isn't just a buzzword, it's a fine line. A system where a farmer in Ghana can send a few cents to her supplier in Thailand instantly, securely, for less than the cost of a raindrop. No middlemen, no waiting, no paperwork drowning in red tape. Africa to Asia, Europe to Americas, it's all the same. A transaction that moves faster than you can blink, cutting through the chaos of outdated systems built to exclude more than they include. For the unbanked, it means finally having a seat at the table, trading not in promises but in certainty. For businesses, it's the freedom to grow without being strangled by fees that bleed them dry. For families, it's the ability to send help across oceans without wondering how much will be skimmed off the top. A world where transaction costs 0.00 or 0.01 cents isn't just cheaper, it's transformative. It's the difference between sending a day's wage and seeing most of it swallowed by greed, by keeping it whole, letting it do what it's meant to do. Feed, build, create. It's security without the need for trust, speed without the sacrifice of integrity. Brilliant. This is what internet money could be: a bridge, not a wall, a tool, not a weapon, a system that doesn't demand power or privilege, only participation. And for the first time, the world, every corner of it, could be connected in a way that matters, not just with words or images, but with the ability to act, to trade, to live. Honestly, absolutely fantastic statements here. In fact, I might even carry on and read more. Governments and corporations like MasterCard hate the idea of true internet money because it exposes their game. Their power isn't built on innovation or service, it's built on control. Control over the flow of money, over who gets access, at what cost. When every transaction passes through their hands, they take a cut. They track, they manipulate, they turn what should be free money moving between people into a bottleneck they own. True internet money doesn't need them. It doesn't bow to their gatekeeping or their fees. A system where 0.01 cents sends money halfway across the world makes MasterCard irrelevant. It renders their bloated infrastructure and predatory pricing obsolete. Governments fear it for the same reason. It chips away at their ability to control, to surveil, to dictate the terms of economic life. They rely on centralized systems to tax, to sanction, to punish. Internet money moves outside their reach, answering to the protocol, not to them. For MasterCard and its ilk, this isn't just competition, it's annihilation. A world where billions of people can transact freely, securely, at microscopic fees. It is a world where their profits vanish. For governments, it's a threat to their ability to enforce financial boundaries, to monitor every movement of wealth. It takes away the levers they use for decades to maintain their grip on power. That's why they hate it, not because it's dangerous, but because it's liberating. It leaves the playing field, tearing down the barriers they've spent lifetimes building. It gives power back to the people, ordinary people. That terrifies those who thrive on control. It's like poetry in motion. Politically true, internet money would shatter the foundations of power built on control and centralization. It would decentralize economic influence, stripping governments and financial institutions of their monopoly over money. When people can transact instantly, securely, and almost freely without needing banks, regulators, or payment processors, the transactional levers of political control weaken. For authoritarian regimes, it's a nightmare. Their ability to freeze accounts, restrict trade, or enforce capital controls evaporates. Protests and resistance movements gain a powerful tool, a way to fund themselves without fear of being cut off. Censorship becomes harder when financial flows can bypass the grip of state-controlled banks. The political playing field shifts, giving ordinary citizens an advantage they never had. In democracies, the political implications are no less profound. Lobbyists and corporate interests tied to the financial sector lose their influence. When MasterCard and Visa no longer skim profits from every transaction, their ability to fund political campaigns and dictate policy diminishes. Politicians lose their easy justification for excessive regulation in the name of security when people see a better system functioning without it. Global politics transforms as well. Remittance-dependent countries, often exploited by the high fees of Western financial systems, suddenly find themselves with more capital circulating locally. Developing nations gain access to trade networks that were previously out of reach. This redistribution of economic opportunity undermines the current hierarchy of global power, where wealthier nations dictate terms to poorer ones. True internet money doesn't just decentralize finance, it decentralizes power. It reduces the capacity of any one entity to dictate terms, whether it's a government, a corporation, or a central bank, and in doing so, it opens the door to a more balanced, equitable political landscape, one where influence is earned through value and ideas and not imposed through control. Absolutely fantastic. Politically, the idea of thousands of small value coins, each too insignificant to trace, shifts the entire concept of control. When money isn't tied to an account but to several numbers, used once and then gone, it becomes something governments can't monitor, banks can't freeze, and corporations can't monetize. The entire infrastructure of surveillance capitalism and financial oversight collapses. Imagine a world where transactions happen in fragments, where the value is spread across countless coins, so small, so disposable, that tracking them becomes futile. Governments can't attach identities to funds, they can't build profiles or enforce arbitrary restrictions. Taxes and regulations designed to skim off transactions in centralized systems become meaningless when there's nothing to intercept. This form of money exchanges the very structure of political power. Authoritarian regimes lose their grip entirely. Surveillance states, reliant on knowing who spends what and where, face a blind spot so large it breaks their machinery. Protests and underground movements gain an untouchable tool to organize, to grow, to resist without fear of being shut down. Even in democracies, this kind of money shifts the balance. Politicians reliant on controlling the flow of wealth suddenly lose leverage. Lobbyists tied to financial institutions seeing their influence wane. The promise of decentralization isn't just about economics, it's about breaking the centralized power structures that rely on controlling access to resources. This system also redistributes financial freedom to the margins. The unbanked, the poor, those excluded from traditional systems, finally gain access to a tool that empowers them. Small transactions, pennies, fractions of a cent, become viable, creating a global microeconomy where every individual can participate. Politically, it's a revolution, not through violence or rhetoric, but through the quiet erosion of centralized control. Thousands of small, disposable coins create a system that cannot be owned, cannot be ruled, cannot be stopped. It's not just a new kind of money, it's a new kind of freedom. That's brilliant. They're the ones who trade the dream of a cheap suit and corner office. Yeah, we just went from that one. They're the ones who trade the dream of a cheap suit and corner office, who looked at the promise of something greater and said, nah, I'll take the quick buck. The kind who sold their revolution for a handful of corporate crumbs and a seat at the table of thieves. It wasn't about the dream for them, not the freedom, the decentralization, the chance to rip the levers of control out of the hands of the powerful and give them to the people. No, for them it was always a hustle, a way to cash in, to slap their name on the marquee and play the part of visionary while they lined their pockets with corporate gold. People like that, they're not builders, not creators, they're opportunists. They saw the potential for real freedom and decided it was too messy, too uncertain, too long a road. They wanted the fast lane, the applause, the sponsorship deals, so they sold out. That sounds like Andreas Antonopoulos. And what did they get? A nice check, a pat on the back, a fleeting moment of relevance. But what they lost, what they threw away, was everything. That's true. Because history doesn't remember the sellouts, the shills, the turncoats. It remembers the ones who stayed, who fought for something bigger than their own wallets. The ones who built, not for applause, but because it was right. People like James and Lop, ? They're sitting in their glass towers, smiling at the bank accounts, but deep down, they'll know they sold the dream for a handful of nothing. And when the dust settles, when the real builders have finished their work, there'll be nothing more than a footnote or cautionary tale about what it means to lose your soul. Absolutely. Absolutely. Lose your soul. He knows. He knows. These so-called cypherpunks, wrapped in their righteous banners, love to talk about freedom, about breaking chains, about empowering the people, but watch them closely, watch their reactions, not their words, and you'll see the cracks. They prop up systems that shut out the poor, systems that charge a day's wage just to send $1 across a border. They champion fees so high only privileged can afford to pay, locking out the very people they claim to fight for. They'll preach decentralization while kneeling at the altar of central control. GitHub cabals, corporate ties. The same bankers they once rallied against, now they're quiet partners. It's hypocrisy draped in the language of rebellion. These aren't the revolutionaries they pretend to be. They're gatekeepers, building walls where there should be bridges. They talk of breaking the system, but they've become its architects, designing a world where the rich stay rich and the poor remain forgotten. It's easy to talk about freedom when you've never needed it, but when you've never been the one turned away, priced out, or told your transaction isn't worth enough to make it through, the cypherpunks love to dream. But only if the dream stays theirs, a playground for the few, a fortress disguised as a utopia. But history will remember them for what they are, not liberators but hypocrites, not builders but betrayers. They sold out the people for their polished ideals, and when the people rise, when the real revolution comes, it will leave them behind, buried under weight of their own lies. Adam Back. Brilliant. Brilliant. He said, they call me a fraud, but not because I've lied, but because I've stood firm, because I refuse to dance to their tune, refuse to bow to their efforts, their temptations, their promises of quick riches, if only I'd sell out. They hate me because they can't move me. I won't budge, I won't change, I won't rewrite the rules to suit their schemes, their corporate agendas, their vision of a world where power stays in the hands of the few. They call me a fraud because I won't play the game. They've rigged. They can't buy me out. They can't silence me, and they can't erase me, no matter how hard they try, and believe me, they've tried. But I'll keep building, I'll keep delivering, because this isn't about me or them, or the noise they make into their echo chambers. This is about the dream. The real dream, a system that's fair, open, unchanging, set in stone. Bitcoin isn't BTC, Bitcoin isn't their toy, their profit machine, their manipulated, bloated mess designed to serve the rich and exclude the rest. Bitcoin is what it always was, a tool for everyone, from the unbanked in Africa to the merchants in Asia, from the smallest transactions to the largest enterprise. It's the original vision, and I'll deliver it. They'll call me every name they can think of. They'll try to bury me under the lies, their lawsuits, their schemes, but they'll fail, because you can't kill an idea that's already alive, an idea that's already growing, taking root in the cracks from the system they built to control. Bitcoin will take over the earth not because of me, but because of what it is, the real Bitcoin, immutable, unstoppable, inevitable, and when it does, the ones who called me a fraud will be the ones history remembers as fools. Oh, and there's a thread up there. Oh, that was awesome. That was awesome. What a piece of literature to write on to write and read out on New Year's Day. Ha! Fantastic. Inspirational. Inspirational. Let's see what he said here. Is this all part of it? A court can silence me, it can chain my tongue, stamp its gravel into the flesh of truth, wrap its robes around the fragile vanity of power pretending permanence. It can forbid the words, strike them from the record, bar the doors and say, speak no more of this, but it can't stop. The building. It cannot halt the hands, the code, the quiet work of something too vast, too certain to be caged by paper or decree. Bitcoin isn't words, it isn't noise, it's motion, action, a relentless tide that swallows walls, gates and rules meant to hold it back. What they don't see, what they can't is that this isn't a fight they can win. The wheel has turned, the old game is over. They can try, for now, to slow it, to stifle it, to choke the breath of what's already alive. But in the long term, they only write their names in shame, etch themselves into the ledger of failure as the fools who thought they could fight a storm with whispers. The shills The skeptics, the ones who trade integrity for fleeting comfort, will be remembered not as warriors but as warnings. What's coming is unstoppable. It's conconing coming. Is that conconing coming? Breaking through the cracks that they tried to seal. And when it rises, it will stand as proof that the court, the censorship, the noise of the small minds were nothing more than last gasps of a world already gone. Oh, here we go. He's explaining himself here. Conconing feels like a word born out of necessity, something raw and unpolished, yet bursting with intent. It captures a moment in time when ideas, forces, or movements are not just forming, they are gathering power, coiling tightly into something inevitable. It is the storm before it unleashes, the silent roar of the tide rising, the vibration of the earth beneath your feet before it cracks open. It is, in its essence, conconing is about anticipation, the feeling that something unstoppable is taking shape just beyond sight. It's neither chaos nor stillness, but a kind of ordered turbulence. A moment when all the scattered pieces begin to align, to build, to prepare. It doesn't simply hint at what's coming, it declares that what's coming is already here. It's an embryonic state, waiting for the moment to erupt, waiting for the moment of eruption. This word is not soft or subtle, it's visceral. It feels heavy in the mouth, that's as though carrying the weight of what it means. It's not a polished term for academics or dictionaries. It belongs in the dirt, the heat, the pulse of something alive. In the context of Bitcoin, it captures the inevitability of a system that grows not because it's loud, but because it cannot be stopped. Conconing is not just about emergence, it's about inevitability. It's the quiet, persistent truth that what builds itself in the shadows will eventually cast its own light. And no court, no censor, no force can hold back what's already begun. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And Half Pint Music, Half Pint Music has said here, hey CS Tom and I, that's CSW, how can I use my BSV as a cash in New York City, or when can I, or is there something I can buy or do myself to use my BSV on a day-to-day basis using my BSV, and maybe set up an incentive rewards per Satoshi spent type of system? Can you point me to the right direction, or people or companies? And CSW has said yes, soon it will be easier. Things are coming 2025. Yes, please keep me posted. Loving that. Loving that. Loving that. I think I recognise Half Pint Music. Indeed I do. Let's have a look. Ha! Yeah. I think I do indeed recognise Half Pint Music. That's ace. That is ace. Half Pint Music getting a follow there. Nice. Nice. Check this one out. So in response to BitCrash saying, or posting here, Adam Back saying, blockchains are hard to scale. Because he didn't create them. And CSW has said, yeah, I managed this. The idea the Terranode team brought to life works. Loving that. And he also said, imagine Bitcoin, a cash system used for payments. And that's in response to BitCrash again posting this, saying, tells you a lot who hates Bitcoin as a cash system. BTCers hate Bitcoin. What market? The cabal. And this is from Dan Held, this douchebag, who features in Douchebags of Bitcoin, the playlist. Said Roger and co, including Craig Wright, wanted to hijack Bitcoin to make it better for payments, which no one was using it for. Well, that's because it takes time. Bitcoin community said F off, and so they forked off. Market decided that the other counterfeit versions of Bitcoin is near worthless. Well, they're not actually. So it was actually BTC that forked off. So the original protocol just simply continued under a new ticker symbol. So they've done nothing apart from create an alternative protocol, one that doesn't work because it can't be a cash system, stolen the BTC ticker. Who cares? That's what they've done. You know, the intelligent people will figure this out soon enough, as we're starting to notice already. And someone just pointed this out to me. So Gavin Lucas has said, if BSV has transaction fees of like 0.000001 and processes 1 million transactions per second, it generates $600 fees in each block, plus the block subsidy. If applications max out Terrano's processing capacity, there will be $600 fees in each block. It's a start, and I'm excited, but we need to scale much bigger. We're also going to need deep liquidity and accessible exchanges, or a widely used stablecoin capable of fractionalizing. Let's get after it in 2025. Or not really, because the lower the fees, the more attractive the network is to use for bigger things. And the supply of the coin that you're purchasing in order to use the network is fixed in supply. So therefore, as more people use it, the value goes up. So it's actually, the cheaper the transaction fees, the more valuable the network becomes. So it's the lower transactions that actually generate the genuine number go up. That's what we really want. We want number go up from utility demand, demand of its usefulness. The entire world flooding onto the Bitcoin network to use it to get sovereignty over our data back. So the cabal can't get data points on us and stuff like that. So it's not actually about the block fee. It's about getting those fees part of the number going up. So miners chase profit, so they want something that's going to actually keep going up in value, and so they'll mine it because the value of the asset that they're mining is actually like shooting up enormously. That's what it's all about. Just in the same way that the cabal pump BTC with Tether, and there's only a limited amount that they can pump BTC with Tether by. Because it's coming from a single source, and you've always got traders cashing out, and there's only so much even Tether can get away with, pumping a billion. I mean, literally what we've seen like a billion every 2 days being pumped into the market. Where'd they get that from? Rubbish. But if you're talking about like 10 billion going in and 100 billion going in, which is what we are from the entire world running on the Bitcoin network, they can't match that. Because there's no way Tether could justify saying, oh yeah, we've got 100 billion going in a day. Nah, no way. Even the shittest shit for brain people would be like, nah, that you can't have that. They would know. They can maybe get away with $1 billion because they're disguising it, saying it's the market. But it's not, and we know it. Right, that was only meant to be a quick show, and it's 22 minutes already. There we go. So I hope you had a happy new year, everyone. 2025, the year BSV comes alive. Bring it on. We'll leave it there. So I hope you enjoyed it. As ever, be aware, take care, stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one.